Hey guys, Dr. Berg here. If you're over the age of 60 and you've started noticing that your legs feel weaker, your balance isn't what it used to be, or you get tired climbing stairs, this video is going to be incredibly important for you because what's happening isn't just aging, it's something called sarcopenia, the silent muscle wasting condition that affects millions of seniors, and it starts in the legs. But here's the good news. It's preventable. And it all begins with what you eat first thing in the morning. Let me explain. After the age of 30, most people begin to lose a small percentage of their muscle mass each year. This process is subtle at first, but by the time someone reaches their 60s, it begins to accelerate significantly. This condition is called sarcopenia, and it refers specifically to age muscle loss. What most people don't understand is that sarcopenia isn't just about aesthetics or body composition. It's a major risk factor for falls, frailty, loss of independence, insulin resistance, and even early death. And here's the uncomfortable truth. If you do nothing, it is inevitable. By the age of 80, the average person loses over 40% of their skeletal muscle mass if they haven't actively intervened. This is why so many seniors struggle to climb stairs, stand up from chairs, or walk short distances without fatigue. Sarcopenia targets the largest and most metabolically active muscles first, primarily in the legs. Your quadriceps, hamstrings, and glutes are especially vulnerable. These muscles aren't just for movement, they also serve as glucose reservoirs and are essential for blood sugar regulation, joint protection, and balance. But why does this happen? What triggers sarcopenia in the first place? There are several mechanisms, but the primary culprit is a decrease in anabolic signaling, especially the signaling pathways that involve mTOR, the cellular trigger for muscle growth. As we age, the body becomes less sensitive to dietary protein, meaning we need more of it and in better quality to achieve the same anabolic response we had when we were younger. This is often called anabolic resistance. So a small amount of protein that would have built muscle in your 20s is no longer sufficient in your 60s or 70s. There's also a sharp decline in physical activity in older adults. Modern lifestyles are largely sedentary, especially post-retirement. When muscles aren't used regularly, especially under resistance or load, the body interprets them as unnecessary and begins to break them down. This process, known as muscle catabolism, is an energy-saving measure from the body's evolutionary standpoint. Unfortunately, in today's world, this adaptive mechanism becomes a liability. And then there's the hormonal aspect. Aging is associated with decreased levels of testosterone, growth hormone, and IGF-1, all of which play key roles in muscle preservation and regeneration. Add to that common age deficiencies like low vitamin D, magnesium, and B12, and you have the perfect storm for muscle atrophy. Insulin resistance is another critical piece of the puzzle. As we age, many people develop some degree of insulin resistance, often without knowing it. This impairs nutrient delivery to muscle cells and inhibits recovery after eating or exercising. Muscles rely on insulin signaling to absorb amino acids and glucose efficiently. When this mechanism breaks down, muscles starve, even when food is abundant. Inflammation also plays a silent but destructive role. Chronic low-grade inflammation, common in older adults due to poor diet, stress, and underlying conditions, accelerates protein breakdown and inhibits muscle repair. Inflammatory cytokines like TNF-alpha and IL-6 have been shown to directly contribute to muscle wasting in elderly populations. The presence of inflammation alters hormonal balance, damages mitochondria and muscle cells, and further deepens fatigue and weakness. One of the biggest misconceptions is that muscle maintenance is just about going to the gym. While physical movement is absolutely essential, nutrition is equally, if not more important, especially for those over 60. Without sufficient leucine-rich protein, the body simply cannot trigger the muscle-building process. Many seniors aren't just under-eating calories, they're severely under-eating protein. Add to that poor absorption due to declining stomach acid, and even a seemingly healthy diet might not be providing what the body actually needs. In many cases, sarcopenia creeps in because no one sounds the alarm early enough. Doctors rarely test for it unless someone is already showing severe signs of frailty or falling. By then, much of the damage is done. Early intervention, ideally starting in the 40s or 50s, can delay or even prevent the worst outcomes. But even in your 60s, 70s, or 80s, it's never too late to take action. Recognizing the inevitability of sarcopenia without intervention is the first step toward preventing it. If you're not actively engaging in resistance training, consuming high-quality protein, addressing nutritional deficiencies, and managing insulin and inflammation, your body will begin breaking down muscle, whether you realize it or not. This process is not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, unless you choose to do something about it now. As we age, our bodies begin to change in subtle but critical ways. One of the most overlooked signs of aging is the gradual weakening of our leg muscles. Most people don't realize it's happening until they begin struggling with basic tasks, standing up from a chair, climbing stairs, or simply walking for extended periods. But make no mistake, this decline starts years before it becomes noticeable. And here's the key insight. Your leg muscles are almost always the first to go. The legs contain some of the largest and most metabolically active muscles in the body, namely the quadriceps, hamstrings, gluteal muscles, and calves. These muscles are responsible for locomotion, stability, posture, and even circulation. Because of their size and energy demands, they are highly sensitive to inactivity, poor nutrition, and hormonal decline. When the body senses that these muscles aren't being used or supported, it begins to break them down to conserve energy, a process known as muscle catabolism. The reason leg muscles go first isn't just about size, it's about function and usage. In modern life, most people spend far too much time sitting, whether it's sitting at a desk, watching television, or commuting in a car. Prolonged periods of inactivity tell the body that the lower half doesn't need as much support. The human body is incredibly efficient. If something isn't being used, it gets downgraded. The phrase use it or lose it becomes painfully accurate when it comes to your legs. As people age, balance tends to decline, and this is directly linked to leg strength. Your legs aren't just for movement, they serve as your foundation. Strong leg muscles stabilize the hips and knees, protect the joints, and help you recover from slips or missteps. Once those muscles weaken, your risk for falls increases dramatically. And falls are not just minor incidents in old age. They're one of the leading causes of injury and loss of independence in seniors. Now let's go deeper into the physiology. The quadriceps and hamstrings are composed of a mixture of fast twitch and slow twitch muscle fibers. Fast twitch fibers, the ones responsible for power and explosive strength, are especially prone to atrophy as we age. These are the fibers that help you rise quickly from a seated position, catch yourself when stumbling, or lift your leg to step onto a curb. Without regular stimulation, these fibers degrade rapidly, which leads to slower reaction times, decreased agility, and weaker legs overall. Another reason your legs go first has to do with circulation and mitochondrial function. The legs are far from the heart, and as circulation becomes less efficient with age, the delivery of oxygen and nutrients to the lower limbs can decline. This affects mitochondria, the energy factories inside muscle cells. When mitochondrial function drops, energy production becomes sluggish, recovery slows, and muscles fatigue more easily. That fatigue discourages movement, which leads to more muscle loss, a vicious cycle. There's also a neurological component. Muscle contraction isn't just about the muscle itself, it's about the neuromuscular connection. As we age, nerve signals to the legs become less efficient. That means slower communication between the brain and your lower body. This contributes to the unsteadiness or wobbliness that many older adults describe. If that neuromuscular pathway isn't kept active through movement and resistance training, it begins to break down. Nutrition plays a massive role as well. The amino acids required to maintain and rebuild muscle, especially leucine, isoleucine, and valine, must be consumed consistently in adequate amounts. Unfortunately, many older adults either undereat protein or consume poor quality sources that lack the essential amino acids. The first muscles to pay the price, the largest and most demanding ones, the legs. Furthermore, hormones such as testosterone, growth hormone, and IGF-1 all naturally decline with age. These hormones are critical for maintaining lean muscle mass. As they drop, the body shifts toward catabolism rather than anabolism, meaning it breaks down tissue faster than it builds it. And again, the leg muscles, being the most metabolically expensive, are typically the first to be sacrificed. This early loss of leg muscle mass is often subtle. It doesn't start with collapse. It starts with small changes, taking longer to get up, needing to hold the railing when climbing stairs, avoiding long walks, or feeling soreness from basic activities. These signs are the body's way of signaling that something important is being lost, and it requires attention. The good news is that leg muscle loss is not irreversible. With proper intervention, including resistance training, high quality protein intake, nutrient support, and movement throughout the day, these muscles can be preserved and even rebuilt well into your 60s, 70s, and beyond. But you have to act before the decline becomes a crisis. When it comes to maintaining muscle mass as we age, especially after 60, most people think about exercise, maybe taking a walk or joining a gym, but few understand that the first and most important trigger for building muscle isn't movement, it's nutrition. More specifically, it's the intake of leucine-rich protein. And when you eat this protein matters just as much as how much you eat. The timing, the quality, and the amino acid profile all make a difference. That's why starting your day with leucine-rich protein isn't just a good idea, it's essential if you want to preserve your muscles and prevent sarcopenia. Leucine is one of the 9 essential amino acids, meaning your body can't produce it on its own. It has to come from food. But what makes leucine unique is its powerful ability to activate mTOR, mechanistic target of rapamycin, a cellular signaling pathway that tells your body to start building new muscle. Think of leucine as the on switch for muscle protein synthesis. Without enough of it, your body can't effectively repair or grow muscle, no matter how much exercise you do. Here's the catch. As you age, your body becomes anabolically resistant. That means it needs a higher dose of leucine to stimulate the same muscle building response that would have happened much more easily when you were younger. In your 20s, 1 gram of leucine might have done the job, but after 60, you might need 2.5 to 3 grams just to trigger the same mTOR response. This is where most older adults fall short. They simply don't eat enough high leucine protein, especially in the morning when the body is most primed for growth and repair. Most people over 60 still follow outdated breakfast patterns: toast, cereal, fruit, maybe a little yogurt or tea. These foods are high in carbohydrates and low in usable protein. Worse, they spike insulin, which blocks fat burning and suppresses key anabolic hormones. Starting your day with carbs sends the wrong signals: store fat, not build muscle. It increases glucose, raises insulin, and leaves your muscles starving for the amino acids they need to repair from the overnight fast. That's why eating leucine-rich protein first thing in the morning is critical. You've just fasted for 10, 12 hours. Your body is in a catabolic state, breaking down tissue for energy. The next thing you eat either continues the breakdown or flips the switch toward rebuilding. If you start with high-quality protein rich in leucine, you halt that breakdown and immediately begin muscle protein synthesis. So where do you get leucine-rich protein? Not all protein sources are created equal. Some have lower bioavailability or are incomplete in their amino acid profile. The most effective sources for older adults include whey protein isolate, one of the most concentrated sources of leucine available. Just 1 scoop, 20 to 25 G protein, can deliver over 2.5 G of leucine, enough to stimulate mTOR and begin muscle building. Eggs. Whole eggs are a powerful source of complete protein and contain roughly 0.5 G of leucine per egg. 3 to 4 eggs in the morning can make a big difference. Grass-fed, beef, or poultry, these animal proteins provide all the essential amino acids, including leucine, and help sustain energy longer. Collagen isn't high in leucine-rich protein. When taken alongside whey or eggs, it supports connective tissue, joints, and skin, which are all affected by aging. Cottage cheese or Greek yogurt, these can be good options, but be cautious of added sugars or lactose intolerance. The goal is to hit at least 25-30 grams of high-quality protein in your first meal with 2.53 grams of leucine. This is a threshold needed for most people over 60 to kickstart muscle protein synthesis and reverse the catabolic processes of aging. And remember, this isn't just about the numbers. It's about sending the right hormonal and cellular signals at the right time. When you consume leucine-rich protein early in the day, you support your muscle metabolism, stabilize your blood sugar, and set the tone for better appetite control throughout the day. High-protein breakfasts have been shown to reduce cravings, improve insulin sensitivity, and enhance fat burning, all things that become harder with age. On the other hand, skipping breakfast or starting with a carbohydrate-heavy meal sends the wrong metabolic message. It encourages muscle breakdown, fat storage, and energy crashes. This sets off a chain reaction: more fatigue, less activity, and faster muscle atrophy. By making one simple change, prioritizing leucine-rich protein first thing in the morning, you create a powerful anti-aging effect at the cellular level. You turn off the breakdown, turn on the repair, and begin protecting one of your most vital assets as you age, your muscle tissue. Muscle loss with age is often assumed to be an unavoidable part of getting older. But what many people don't realize is that one of the most silent accelerators of muscle wasting is insulin resistance. This condition doesn't just affect blood sugar, it has a direct destructive impact on your muscle tissue, especially after the age of 60, when hormonal sensitivity and metabolic flexibility decline. If you're not addressing insulin resistance, your muscles are breaking down faster than you think, even if you're eating protein or exercising regularly. Insulin is a hormone that plays several roles in the body. Most people associate it with blood sugar control, but insulin is also an anabolic hormone, meaning it helps build tissue, including muscle. Under normal conditions, insulin helps shuttle amino acids and glucose into muscle cells, allowing them to repair, grow, and function properly. When you become insulin resistant, your muscle cells stop responding efficiently to insulin signals. That means the nutrients from your food, particularly protein and carbohydrates, don't get absorbed into the muscle the way they should. They either remain in the bloodstream or get stored as fat instead. This breakdown in communication creates a dangerous pattern. Your muscles are starved of the nutrients they need to rebuild, so they slowly begin to atrophy. Meanwhile, your body stores more fat, especially visceral fat around the abdomen, which further worsens insulin resistance. This creates a self-reinforcing cycle. The more insulin resistant you become, the more muscle you lose, and the more muscle you lose, the more insulin resistant you become. Insulin resistance also raises levels of inflammation in the body. Inflammatory cytokines like TNF-alpha and IL-6 interfere with muscle protein synthesis and increase protein degradation. This leads to higher levels of a process called proteolysis, where the body breaks down muscle tissue for energy, especially during fasting or periods of low nutrient intake. So even if you're eating well, your body may still be in a catabolic state if insulin isn't doing its job. So even if you're eating well, your body may still be in a catabolic state if insulin isn't doing its job. There's another angle to consider. Insulin resistance reduces the activity of Glute-4 transporters, which are responsible for moving glucose into muscle cells. When these transporters are downregulated, your muscles can't take up and store glycogen effectively. Glycogen is the stored form of glucose inside muscle cells. It acts as a key fuel source during activity and even at rest. When your glycogen stores are depleted due to insulin resistance, muscle endurance and strength decline. You feel weaker, tire more easily, and recover more slowly after movement. Over time, this leads to decreased physical activity, which further compounds the problem. This is particularly relevant for older adults who already experience reduced activity levels due to joint pain, fatigue, or balance issues. Add insulin resistance to the equation, and you have a scenario where muscle is being lost faster than it can be built, even with moderate efforts to stay active. Compounding the issue is the fact that insulin resistance often coexists with sarcopenic obesity, a condition where fat mass increases while muscle mass decreases. Many seniors don't appear underweight. In fact, they may seem slightly overweight, but what's happening internally is a dangerous shift in body composition. The loss of lean muscle combined with increased fat storage reduces metabolic rate, worsens insulin sensitivity, and sets the stage for frailty, falls, and chronic disease. Now let's look at how to reverse this. The first step is to reduce dietary insulin spikes. The more often your insulin is elevated, the faster your body becomes resistant to it. This means cutting back or eliminating refined carbohydrates, sugars, and processed foods, especially in the morning when insulin sensitivity is already at its lowest for many people. Instead, focus on a low-carb, high-protein, high-fat meal plan that includes nutrient-dense whole foods like eggs, wild-caught fish, grass-fed beef, avocados, olive oil, leafy greens, and cruciferous vegetables. Intermittent fasting can also be a powerful tool. By reducing the frequency of eating and giving insulin a chance to stay low for longer periods, you increase insulin sensitivity. This allows your body to better utilize nutrients when you do eat and improves the uptake of amino acids into muscle tissue. Many people over 60 assume fasting is dangerous, but when done correctly with proper nutrition, it can actually help stabilize energy levels, reduce inflammation, and promote muscle preservation. Nutrition, physical activity remains essential, but it needs to be smart and consistent. Resistance training, even 2 to 3 times per week, sends a strong signal to the body that muscle is needed. This activates muscle building pathways and improves insulin receptor sensitivity on muscle cells. When you combine resistance training with a high protein, low insulin diet, the results can be dramatic, even in older adults who have been sedentary for years. Nutrient support is equally important. Magnesium, vitamin D, chromium, and alpha lipoic acid all play roles in improving insulin function. Vitamin D, in particular, helps regulate insulin sensitivity and supports muscle strength. A deficiency in vitamin D is common in older adults and can worsen both insulin resistance and muscle wasting. Ignoring insulin resistance isn't just a blood sugar issue, it's a muscle destruction issue. If your goal is to age with strength, energy, and mobility, you have to understand how deeply insulin resistance sabotages your efforts. Most people associate mitochondria with energy, and they're right. Mitochondria are often referred to as the powerhouses of the cell responsible for producing ATP, the energy currency that drives every biological function in your body. But what's often overlooked is just how critical mitochondrial function is for maintaining and preserving muscle tissue, especially as we age. The connection between muscle strength and mitochondrial health is direct. And when your mitochondria start to decline, muscle wasting isn't far behind. Each muscle cell contains hundreds, sometimes thousands of mitochondria. These tiny organelles take in nutrients, oxygen, and fuel from your food and convert them into usable energy. But as we age, mitochondrial function begins to decline naturally, especially in skeletal muscle. This process is called mitochondrial dysfunction, and it plays a major role in sarcopenia, the age loss of muscle mass and strength. One of the main issues is that older mitochondria become less efficient. They produce less ATP, generate more free radicals, and struggle to keep up with the energy demands of muscle tissue, especially during movement or repair. Without adequate energy, muscle fibers can't contract properly, can't recover efficiently, and eventually begin to shrink. Over time, this leads to loss of endurance, strength, and mobility, key hallmarks of aging. Muscle tissue is metabolically active. It requires a constant supply of ATP, even at rest, just to maintain structure and function. When that supply falters, the body responds by breaking down muscle to reduce its energy burden. From a survival standpoint, this makes sense. If the tissue can't be fueled properly, the body conserves energy by reducing it. Unfortunately, this leads to a visible and dangerous loss of muscle mass in older adults. Another factor is that poor mitochondrial function increases oxidative stress. Damaged or overworked mitochondria leak electrons which interact with oxygen to form reactive oxygen species, ROS, essentially cellular toxins that damage proteins, lipids, and even DNA. In muscle cells, this means the destruction of the very structures responsible for strength and movement. High levels of ROS create an environment where muscle protein synthesis is impaired, recovery is slowed, and inflammation becomes chronic, all of which accelerate muscle wasting. To make matters worse, mitochondrial dysfunction interferes with satellite cell activity, the stem-like cells responsible for muscle repair and regeneration. In younger individuals, these cells remain highly active, especially after injury or exercise. But in aging muscle, the reduced mitochondrial energy availability hinders satellite cell activation. The result, damaged muscle fibers go unrepaired, micro tears accumulate, and the tissue becomes weaker and more fragile. Nutrition and lifestyle play enormous roles in either supporting or damaging mitochondrial health. Diets high in refined carbs, processed foods, seed oils, and artificial chemicals impair mitochondrial enzymes and increase oxidative damage. On the other hand, a nutrient-dense, anti-inflammatory diet can dramatically enhance mitochondrial efficiency and biogenesis, the creation of new mitochondria. Certain nutrients are especially critical for mitochondrial function. CoQ10 is one of the most important. It's a coenzyme that helps shuttle electrons through the mitochondrial electron transport chain, enabling ATP production. As we age, CoQ10 levels naturally decline, particularly in muscle and heart tissue. Supplementing with CoQ10 or consuming foods like organ meats, sardines, and spinach can restore some of that lost capacity. Magnesium is another mitochondrial powerhouse mineral. It supports over 300 enzymatic reactions in the body, including those involved in ATP synthesis. Without enough magnesium, your mitochondria can't function optimally, and muscle fatigue and cramps become more common. Magnesium is often deficient in older adults due to poor absorption and medication use. B vitamins, especially B1, thiamine, B2, riboflavin, B3, niacin, and B12 are all critical cofactors in mitochondrial metabolism. They're involved in converting food into fuel, supporting red blood cell formation, and reducing homocysteine, an inflammatory marker linked to muscle degeneration. L-carnitine plays a vital role in transporting fatty acids into mitochondria for energy production. As mitochondrial function declines, the ability to burn fat efficiently drops, leading to muscle weakness, energy crashes, and weight gain. Supplementing with acetyl L-carnitine has been shown to improve mitochondrial function and physical performance in older adults. Beyond nutrition, lifestyle habits directly affect mitochondrial health. One of the most powerful interventions is high-intensity interval training, HIIL, or resistance exercise. These activities stimulate mitochondrial biogenesis, improving the number and quality of mitochondria within muscle cells. Even short, consistent bouts of effort, like walking uphill, squatting, or lifting light weights, send a signal to your body that muscle tissue is needed and must be supported at the cellular level. Cold exposure and intermittent fasting are also known to activate mitochondrial repair and autophagy, the body's internal recycling system that clears out damaged mitochondria and replaces them with new ones. These simple stressors, when used intentionally, can significantly enhance energy efficiency and reduce the risk of age muscle loss. Maintaining mitochondrial health is not just about energy, it's about preserving the very foundation of your physical strength, stability, and independence. Your muscles rely on these tiny engines to function, repair, and grow. And when those engines start to fail, everything else begins to break down.